One of the most important questions we all have to ask ourselves at some point is, what's the perfect age for me to retire? And to help you with that decision for you, I want to share with you new data from Pew Research that surveys not just people in the United States, but also 18 other countries. So let's jump in and look at this. The article is called, "What Age Do People Around the World Think is Best to Reach Major Life Milestones?" And importantly, one of those milestones is when to retire. Okay, so let's jump in and talk about that. The best age to retire. And there's a lot of data here, so stick with me. People across countries surveyed generally say the ideal age for retirement is in one's late 50s. Now, why do I think this is? In your late 50s, you're still feeling young. You have a lot of energy. You have hopefully your full mental acuities. Hopefully you're healthy, and you have 10 years of good, healthy, fun, active time, hopefully, or more in front of you. So let's jump into this Pew Research report and find out what more it has to say. Okay, in most countries, the ideal average age for retirement is younger than at the age when people can start receiving age-based retirement benefits. Of course, right? There is no free lunch. I mean, if only Social Security started when we're 55 years old, it'd be a lot easier for many of us to decide when to retire. But that's not the case in the United States. It's also not the case around the world. Okay. So at what I want to start with for the United States, and that section is, what do Americans think is the best age for each milestone? And the one about retirement is 61.8 years old. I think that's a great age to retire. I personally chose to retire at 59. I was originally thinking about 55, and in hindsight, that would have been a wonderful time to retire as well. Of course, COVID was in full bloom at that point, which is one of the reasons I delayed my retirement. Okay, but let's look at some of these other countries. And this is an 18 country average. It's about 58 years old, 57.9. And you can look at these countries here. I think interestingly, like if you look at Mexico, the ideal age is 56.6. And then in Colombia, it's 52.1. What's interesting is in many Latin American countries and in many parts of the world, including Southeast Asia, the way that the parents get retired is the children, quote unquote, retire mom and dad. And their adult kids take over and say, okay, mom and dad, you can retire. So I think it's interesting that in Colombia, that age is 52.1. I think that's aspirational. I think a lot of the young people in this survey are thinking, I would love to be able to retire mom and dad in their early 50s. Okay. You might also be interested in what the other ideal milestones are. I'm going to give you them across the world, and then I'll give them to the United States. The ideal age to get married is about 26 years old. To have the first child is about 26 years old. Buying a home is just before you turn 30, and retiring is at 57.9. You can see here in the United States, the numbers aren't dramatically different, with the exception of when to retire. Getting married is 26 and a half. Having a child is a little over 27 years old. Buying a home, 28.8 years old, and retiring, that's 61.8. And I can tell you in my case, getting married, I was about there. Having a child, I was way late. On that, I was about a decade later. Buying my first home, again, I was about a decade later. I was moving around a lot, not typically in one place, for knowing I'd be there for 5, 7, 10 years. So I just didn't want that real estate volatility, knowing I wasn't going to control when I moved. Okay. And then there's some other differences, not just by country. For instance, by gender. And this is, in most countries, men given an ideal age for getting married and having a first child is slightly older. For education, people with more education thinks it's best to get married and have a child later in life. And the impact of religion, people who say religion is very important in their life tend to suggest marriage and parenthood at a younger age compared with people who say religion is only somewhat important to them. So what does all this mean to us? Well, again, I want to give you data so to help you make, you need a collection of data points to help you make the decision that's right for you. And I share this data because at least here in the United States, the default is we're going to retire at 65 years old. And then we get to 65 and it's just super easy to kick the can down the road and succumb to one of the four most dangerous words for a new potential retiree, which is just one more year. So you do that for 1 or 2 years. Now you're 67, you retire. It takes a little bit of time to get used to spending money. Let's say that takes another 1 or 2 years. And now you're close to 70 years old before you're in retirement mode, before you're comfortable actually spending money out of your retirement accounts. And much of your healthy, active time is now behind you. Another data point to think about that's really important is, unfortunately, when we're 60 years old, most of us have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy, active time remaining. That's not a lot of time. And if we give up a year or two of that, just one more year, if we give up a year or two of that being just on autopilot, right? We're doing well financially at work. Our job by this time for many of us has gotten easier. We have connections. We have that institutional knowledge. It's easier for us to get things done. Oftentimes we're paid well, oftentimes the best we've ever been paid in the last couple of years. So it's easy to just cruise on autopilot and forget about, what are those dreams that we've been putting off? So it's important to be thoughtful and deliberate. It's also important to make sure you have enough money to retire, which is one of the reasons I really urge everybody to come up with a financial plan. The gold standard for that is to work with a fee-only financial advisor who knows your situation, that can bring the wisdom that comes from having been a financial advisor for a decade, 2 decades or more, and having helped hundreds of people transition into retirement. I know many people in my audience are never going to use a financial advisor. If that's you, I urge you to not use, the default is you just use Google Sheets or Excel. The problem is, A, it takes a lot of time to do that. B, it's super easy to make a formula mistake or forget something. All of those can be very expensive. You want confidence when you retire. And the good news is there's great software that's available that's not too expensive. There's several vendors that provide it. The software I like used to be called New Retirement. It's now called Bolden. Very affordable. As I record this, it's $120 a year. You can get Bolden at this code here. If you use this code, or scan this QR code, you'll be supporting the station. This video is not sponsored, but I am an affiliate, so I get a tiny piece of what you pay if you decide to use Bolden. And also, if you like videos like this, you're going to love my free newsletter. It comes out about once a week, where I share thoughts, important thoughts, on retirement and the things that we all need to be thinking about. And finally, if you like this video, the YouTube algorithm says this is the next video of mine, specifically for you, that you should watch next. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.